clear skies as outbreaks of heavy rain clear eastwards tonight. Lowest temperatures 0 to 4 degrees with occasional patchy frost. A cool, bright and fresh day tomorrow with heavy showers in the west and northwest. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new and improved Boyle Sports Bet Builder. Now with 44 markets to choose from on every match.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Kenny, we're on. Here we go. C+. C+, Kenny Cunningham coming your way, everybody. Later on, we'll hear from Phil McNulty. I was speaking to him earlier on about how they're feeling on Merseyside. Not so good over at Goodison, it turns out, Kenny. Liverpool, they're still feeling okay-ish. We'll play you some Jurgen Klopp in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, Marcus Rashford in talks with Manchester United over a new long-term deal that would double his wages. So I read this morning, went for a walk, had my cup of coffee and read the paper in the coffee shop. I thought, that's, headline. Yeah. Rashford, good time to be Marcus Rashford in life. And so I was reading Marcus Rashford. There's talk of 150 grand a week. Young man, he's 21 years of age. Thought that's fantastic. Then the next paragraph, Anthony Martial's just signed a new 5-year deal worth around 200 grand a week. Now, I'm not pitching myself as an agent, but if I was Rashford's people, I would be gone back into Ed Woodward and saying, if Anthony Martial is getting 200 grand a week, then my player, who you didn't even have to pay for, who's Manchester born and bred, who the fans adore, who's going to be England's number 9, if Martial's getting 200 grand a week, well, I think Marcus is worth at least 201 a week. Yeah, discuss.
And that's probably the case his agent will be making, I'd imagine. I don't think that contract's been agreed, Rashford's new contract. So.
That's not to mention Alexis Sanchez. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think you'll find, again, these deals, Joe, so complex. It doesn't just come down to your basic weekly salary, signing on fees, bonuses, etc. I remember actually we played at Wimbledon. A few of the lads, the forwards used to have goal bonuses. Yeah, first time I'd ever experienced it. Didn't realise originally when I got there, but after a period of time, it was noticeable. We had a few greedy forwards in the team, none more so than Dean Holsworth. Dean was a good striker and a good goal scorer, but it didn't go unnoticed after a period of time. Any type of service that he got in around the box, very rarely would you get a pass off, 15 yards from goal, until it came to light that these big goal bonuses were being planned, not just to Dino, actually, you probably admit it now, but 1 or 2 of the other forwards as well as an incentive. Now, this was in comparison to wages. These were goal bonuses which could be equal to your basic wage. So you could be basically doubling your wages every week. Now, the Rashford contract, obviously totally different. Wages have gone through the roof. But that particular time, although it was a little bit of a standard joke, very quickly you sense that this was important. This was significant to a lot of the players in terms of money that they could actually generate in terms of goal bonuses.
And did it strike you as not a good situation?
Unfair. It struck me as unfair, as somebody who never passed the halfway line.
But did it strike you as unhelpful that he was very conscious of the fact that in and around the box, a goal meant a lot of money, and therefore he may not have always taken the right option for the team?
Well, this is true. That's an obvious thing to say, and it's right. Because, like I said, for the reasons that I've said, because it was such a huge amount of money in comparison.
And was it discussed at the time?
In terms of what he was earning, it would have been, it would have come out on occasion as a little bit of a joke. Now, don't get me wrong, if it was the case of, somebody was on for a tap-in, he took an extra touch, tried to score and missed the target, there would be something said. Generally speaking, players would take the right option, but it's almost like human nature. It's hard to get away from it. Like, you get it out of your head to block that type of thing out. So it was an interesting one. Back then, I've always found it interesting, absorbed it and thought, well, encouraging, giving the players incentives, encouragement, etc. That kind of financial kind of motivation, even in terms of new contracts. Obviously, back then, wouldn't earn a huge amount, generally speaking. So there was always that feeling you were kind of playing for your next contract. That kind of wage increase was always significant, whereas today it's just stratosphere.
These days those bonuses are more to do with either Image rights, not
Exactly.
a bonus, but image rights, and then if we win the Champions League, if we win the Premier League, they're bigger things as opposed to if you score at the weekend.
Yeah, but the principle's still the same. I think he's a young kid. Now Rashford's a very talented young player, exceptional young player, the biggest football club in the world. I understand that, but the principle's still the same. He's doing well. He's improving. Get him in, recognise that, offer him a new contract, more money. He's earned it. And I think even that general principle as a player, you appreciate that, rather than your agent constantly banging on the door. We want a new contract. We feel as if it's always nice for the club to actually come to you and say, look, want to speak to you upstairs. We think you're doing great. You've stepped up to the next level. We think that should be rewarded. Here's what we want to offer you. That's the right thing to do from the club's point of view.
Yeah. And then he heard 150 and spat his coffee out.
I'm surprised it's only 150.
Anthony Martial.
Well, when you consider Sanchez is on reportedly 300 to 400,000, this was a big issue for me when he signed there on that type of money. I always felt there was going to be a problem in the dressing room down the line in terms of De Gea, Martial, Pogba, these type of players went to renegotiate. Yeah. You've raised the bar to that point. They're going to be looking for deals equivalent to that. So for me, it was a poor decision to give Sanchez that type of money. Is as much money as there is swirling around the football club. They cause themselves an unnecessary problem.
Well, we'll see how it all goes. So, well, what a turnaround. Anthony Martial signs new 5-year deal. Marouane Fellaini heads to China. You know, that could have been the other way around 4 months ago.
It's amazing, yeah. But it's great to see, to be honest with you. I'm not Manchester United's supporter, obviously, but I'm delighted to see even Martial. I think he's an exceptional talent. It looked as if he was on his way out the door. He wasn't happy. He wasn't getting enough game time. The relationship broke down with the manager. I don't think there was ever danger really of Rashford leaving the football club. Although I'd never say never. Some of the end of Marino's reign there, those couple of pictures of Marino turning to the crowd, holding his hands up, and Rashford missed those couple of opportunities. I think I tell you what, fair play to Rashford and his representatives, because I think they would have been in their rights to actually come out and make a few comments on that, because that was absolutely disgraceful. I thought Marino's comments towards Rashford. So I'm really pleased to actually see those players sign the contracts that they are, and Manchester United looking as if they're on the turn.
Around that time, I was starting to even question, well, how good is this Rashford fella? And actually, maybe how good is Martial? That's how much Mourinho had started to convince me, and beating them down. And it's been a really timely reminder that, we were all right initially. We were correct initially. They are brilliant players. Alan Shearer was making the point. He was speaking on a Premier League show, and he was saying, especially as a forward, but it's true of any player, that one of many reasons, Rashford is playing much better at the moment, is that he's not afraid of making a mistake. He doesn't think if he makes a mistake or two, he's going to be taken off.
But he never has been. But that's always one of his strengths, Joe. I looked at him early, his mental strength. And he's had to have that kind of mental strength and fortitude where how he's actually been treated, how difficult Marino's made it for him at times. He's really beaten him down at times, Marino, but he's just got on with it, got his head down, dug in, hasn't hid, continued to try and get on the ball and do the right things. And he's had to try and improve as a player in a position, really, which I think has been alien to him, playing left of a 3. Martial Rashford, from what I understand, is a centre forward. He's played as number 9 all through his developing years at Manchester United. When he first came into the team in that European game, scored 2 goals on his debut, 2 goals the following Saturday against Arsenal, wasn't it? Playing as a centre forward. This has a centre forward. Now he spent the next, whatever it was, year and a half, playing left of a 3, having to learn a different role in a different system, and that wasn't easy. That's not easy for a young lad. It's not easy to come into the team in your preferred position at Manchester United and make an impression and improve and develop, let alone being shunted out to left side of a 3 and saying, well, you're going to make an impression, you're going to make it there now, and have to almost start from scratch. So I give him a huge amount of credit for that, and he did that. And for me, he actually developed into as good as anything I've seen playing left of a 3, and it's probably in the long run it'll probably serve him well. Because I think potentially in any system, he can play centre of a 3 for Manchester, and he can play left of a 3 now for me quite as easily. We've seen Solskjær go to kind of split centre forwards in a couple of games, Spurs and Arsenal, which was really interesting to see. Give him a lot of credit for that, and asking Rashford to operate, and even Martial in those games, in those kind of wide channels, very astute, really tapping into the kind of the qualities of those 2 players, kind of the athleticism, the ability to attack space in behind, etc., etc.
Would you think Lukaku is having an old think about his future just at the moment?
Yeah, well, he will at the end of the season. He'll have a big decision to make, and his agent, we know how vocal his agent is, and even Manchester United, because looking at the team now, you think, not saying Solskjaer is going to be there next year, but he certainly settled on that kind of front three of Martial, Rashford and Lingard. Lingard's almost playing that kind of deep number 9 with the split centre forwards. I'm very interested again. But the basic principle of those 3 players, and you can see the qualities which he likes in those players, a real kind of dynamism, speed, and what separates them 3 from Lukaku, technical ability, and just a little bit of smarts, street smarts, wherever it is, the ability to play in tight areas, clever little combination play, anticipate things, linking up with Pogba coming from those deep midfield positions. Those 3 look to have the tools to actually do that as a front 3. Lukaku, we know the type of player he is.
Yeah.
A little bit more clunky and his style.
And like he can probably improve in some of those areas and try and shape his game to what Solskjær wants, but really he'll never be that type of player.
No, and he's different, and he's someone that you'd want as part of the squad. But from Lukaku's point of view and his age at the end of the season, they're going to be looking at the situation and think, hold on, do we really want to be staying here for another year and playing a bit part road as we have done for the second half of that season? And something might come to the fore there in terms of the club and the player coming to agreement that both are best interests to move Lukaku on.
Here's the thing though, it really does depend on what manager they hire then. You know, like Mourinho, the Fellaini's, the Lukaku's of the world, vintage Mourinho players, physical, big, tall, strong, all that stuff. So, you know, they need to be careful about who they hire. Like, it looks, I would suspect, to a lot of Manchester United fans, like Solskjær appreciates the DNA of the club. There are enough players there to play in the way he wants them to play, attacking, fluid football.
But I don't agree with that.
Do you not?
No, I don't, because you look at those games we've referenced there in terms of when they play the split strikers. And it was almost, I listened to Solskjær talk, and it was almost the case of they set Solskjær.
Go on.
You winding me up. So it seemed as if he was almost content. The Manchester United way on those particular occasions wasn't particularly get on the ball and dominate the ball. It was a case of, well, if we don't have it, that's fair enough. We'll drop, we'll retreat, we'll draw you on, we'll draw those opposition fullbacks. I remember the Tottenham game in particular. Draw those Tottenham fullbacks up the pitch, which is exactly where they want to go. We'll get Rashford, Martial in those cheating positions. We'll concede possession, we'll be patient, and we'll wait for that quick transition. And when we get it, we're at them. You know, we can immediately feed the ball into those players' feet and get into those channels in behind. So in terms of playing the Manchester United way that you were talking about, that kind of free-flowing cavalier, I didn't see it on that particular evening. And I like that.
No, totally. On that evening, they were never going to dominate, and he's starting from a certain base, Solskjær. However, Manchester United, even under Ferguson, you think of the Arsenal Champions League games at the Emirates. They, you know, hitting teams on the break is a part of the Manchester United way. I appreciate it's not the full-blown picture, but it's a part of it. And if Mourinho was playing, there's not a hope in hell that those two would have held the cheating positions. They would have been right back with their full-backs, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key to it.
Then you do agree with me.
That's the key to the system. That's where I give Solskjær a bit of credit. Not a huge amount has changed. Predominantly it's kind of been a 4-3 back four, that midfield 3, Matic, Pogba and Herrera really hasn't changed. And generally the front 3, although he's done the split strikers and Lingard dropping it, so that's been kind of very interesting. But you're right, the advantage that gives you, it's a little bit of a cat and mouse when those split strikers, and that they will drop, but they'll only drop so much. So when the opposition full-backs get themselves high up the pitch, they'll only go so far, and they'll say to their full-backs behind, go and deal with it. Or they'll say to Herrera and Pogba, you break out and deal. We're going to get ourselves in this half kind of cheating position, wherever it is you want to call it. If we win the ball back, we're going to be at them. We're going to be at them quick. So that's clever. That's clever football. It's smart. It's smart football. So for me, I don't get too cavalier traditional Manchester United way. Just play it smart. You know, play a system which best suits the players that you have available to you. And you know, you can play some decent football, but you can't get away from the fact how dangerous United can be with those players now we've mentioned in the team on counter-attack, on transitions, and they have to use that.
Well, certainly the Manchester United way has always had pace, and so that's where the Lukaku thing comes in. So on Liverpool last night, I know you didn't think the performance was very good. We'll talk about that in a moment. Here's just a sense from Jurgen Klopp, if you stick in your headphones. So he's talking here, the 1-1 draw at West Ham last night, and he's talking here about injuries, maybe tiredness within his squad. Have a listen.
Look, it's not. I don't moan about that. Or it's just a fact, and I don't want it. It's not an excuse. Nothing. I said we could have played better tonight, 100%. But it's a situation which is not perfect. And losing 3 players out or changing, we lost 2 players, and Millie came back, but he didn't train yesterday. He came by himself to London because he was infectious, and so that's all not perfect. Of course, it's, for me, it explains parts of the game, but of course, it's not. We don't look for these things. How I said, it was not, the preparation for the game was far away from being perfect, and we still got a point. So that's it, and that's it. I see in your faces already. You feel a bit sorry with us. You don't have to. Eh? We are fine. So we are fine, and everything is good. And but of course, tonight was just a tough game. But if you have a day like that, and with the things happened yesterday, and then you get a point at West Ham, for me that's absolutely fine.
So that's Jurgen Klopp. Liverpool's performance last night?
Yeah, it was a struggle. Yeah, it was a bit nervous, a bit disjointed, sloppy actually, really sloppy. I just couldn't believe how poor the front three were. It's probably as poor as I've seen them play as a front three. Might have mentioned it earlier, Firmino, who can absolutely hang your hat on week in, week out. Mm-hmm. In terms of level of performance, decision making, his touch control, decision making in terms of passing, when to play 1 touch, 2 touch, just never got going, just ball coming off him, just passes arriving too late. Just couldn't get any type of free-flowing football going. Mane, although he got a very good goal again, very sloppy start to the game as well. Salah was on the kind of periphery of it. So regardless of what was happening back further down the pitch in terms of Milner, haven't got an orthodox right back, and losing potentially Henderson, that central midfield area, that front three alone is probably as poor as I've seen them function as a trio for quite some time. And yeah, standalone game, below par performance. Yeah, I can take that, but it'd still be a small worry, I'd have to admit. In the circumstance, what's at stake, the season ahead, the possibilities which is available to Liverpool, it was a performance I wasn't expecting. I thought they'd win that game comfortably last night. It didn't prove to be the case. They were really hanging a bit.
And when you look at, say, Firmino, and you're talking about sloppiness, like Andy Robertson's come out and said nothing to do with nerves, like stop, and they're all saying we're not nervous, it's not nerves. And I wouldn't really associate sloppiness with being nervous either. Sloppy is like not concentrating, not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So I didn't see much of the game. I was in here with Kev, so I don't know what you're talking about with Firmino. Did he look like uninterested, or did he look anxious?
No, I wouldn't say uninterested. Just the quality levels just weren't there. He's generally the one. The ball goes from through the thirds. He's the one who kind of drops off the front, those kind of central areas, picks it up in the pockets, and he gets people into the game. He gets Salah into the game. Man, those midfield runners, fullbacks, bobbing down the sides. He's generally the one that kind of go-to man. I guess those moves going, but it just ball wasn't sticking. So that makes it difficult straight away. Salah's making those diagonal runs in behind. It's just he's not being found, and likewise Mane on the opposite side. You can't really build any kind of sustained attack in the opposition.
How do you explain a Premier League footballer like Firmino, a really good footballer?
Yeah.
Look, fair enough. Ball goes into him once or twice, has an off touch, but when it's happening repeatedly, it's very strange.
No, I wouldn't want to beat him up in particular. For me, we can have human beings, Joe, as simple as that. I'm sure the man did as much as he could in terms of his tactical preparation, physical condition, how they would have prepared, travelled, all would have been the same. It just happens. You just never know. Just a little bit flat, a slow start, and just never found any kind of rhythm to their play. I mean, the central midfield lads done okay. Quite, it was a little bit sloppy at times. Fabinho, nice and tidy as he generally is in there, but no, just no real mojo to the performance at all. I know people say the last couple of games haven't been great either. Palace, they left it late, but Palace, there was like real character there in terms of like second being down, coming back, getting pegged back, going again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was that type of before. Although they conceded the goals, there was still a lot to admire about in terms of the performance, where it was kind of really stale performance last. Haven't seen that too often from Liverpool, so I wouldn't be overly, you know what I mean? It's not as if all the walls have caved in, but it did surprise me a little bit. And even Van Dijk, right? Look, Van Dijk is like godlike at the moment. Nobody can, you can't say anything too critical of Van Dijk, and I'll be a huge fan of his as well. But even looking at him, even the last couple of games, I mean, last night was a clear example. Like, the leader he is within that team. Now he's playing at centre half. I understand that, but he's a good ball playing centre half as there is around. He's a huge personality within the squad. And that game wasn't going right for Liverpool last night. And I was even looking at Van Dijk last night, thinking, can you make an impression in this game, even with that central defensive position, rather than get the ball and in that languid style open up and just pop one out to Robertson's feet in the left back position, get it back, do the same again. Can you get the ball? Can you drive 20 yards at pace into that central midfield area, into a straight line and commit someone? You know, maybe you pop the ball into Firmino's feet, take one of the West Ham players out of the game, maybe continue your run, get yourself into the box in case a cross comes into the box. Just try and change the dynamic of the game somehow. But, you know, he was on the ball, he was looking the part, he was keeping it simple.
A little bit too cool for school almost.
That's super cool. And if I even reference it back to the Leicester game of the week, and the Leicester goal, for me, was down to him. It was Van Dijk's mistake. That kind of, almost like that kind of disinterested, ball coming into the box. God, you know, he's that good. We all know how good he is, and he knows how good he is. But you've got to park that. As soon as the game starts, you've got to park that, and you've got to do all the horrible bits, whatever it is that involves being a top-class defender. And it's not all about getting yourself in 1v1 situation against the opposition best striker. All the eyes of the crowd are on you. Everybody's watching on. It's all about you. Then 1v1, stay on your feet, show that athleticism, that upper body strength, win the ball back. The whole crowd. So it's not all about that. It's about the ball bouncing in your box. You know, reposition yourself a yard or two here, having your head in a swivel, just getting the toe poke to the ball, hoof from the ball clear as well. And he didn't do that against Leicester.
No, it's a really good point now that you make it, because a centre half can change up the dynamic of a game with an intervention like that, with a run into midfield with the ball, as you said, draw a man, open things out, change the dynamic. I wonder if anyone's ever said it to him. That wouldn't have been your game. You wouldn't have done
couldn't have done it. This is what I'm saying, but he's got the ability to do it. He has got the abilities to do it. And that's what I'm saying. I think that was the game last night, because they weren't really functioning hard up the pitch, Liverpool.
Yeah. But he can open it up for them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because West Ham played one up front, Chikorita, had that midfield three. So basically Liverpool a 2v1, him and Matty 2v1 against Chikorito. So you move the ball quickly, get that spare centre half spare. Now, basically, what West Ham, as soon as that spare centre half gets the ball, the West Ham midfield three are hoping, just play that safe pass. Play that safe pass wide to the full back. We'll get our winger in contact. We can hold our positions in the middle, nice and compact. The problem comes when that spare centre half goes whoosh in a straight line at speed, 20 yards. Now they have a decision to make who's got to go. So it might well be Mark Noble in there. It might be Snodgrass. It might even be Declan Rice. Might have to take a big step forward. And by doing that, it opens up space in behind little pockets for maybe Firmino, Salah to come off the wing and invade those little areas of space on the inside. That matters. That changes the whole complexity of the game.
It has a knock-on effect right through the pitch if you draw a man. Who was good at that? Rio Ferdinand jumps to mind. He could do that.
Yeah.
And liked doing it as well.
Yeah, had the ability to do it, I mean, I couldn't have early on in my career, like, I wasn't the most gifted with the ball at my feet, but in my latter years, I did make a conscious effort. Like, you get better understanding of the game. You know, you understand, well, hold on, I've got to be prepared to step forward. It doesn't mean dropping your shoulder and going past 2 or 3 people. It just means literally committing somebody towards you, and maybe can you beat him with a pass, a 10, 15-yard pass. So I used to, as I got a little bit older, I used to try, well, I need to help, I need to contribute maybe a little bit more. Yeah. But certainly players with that football in a bit. The best is probably Harry Maguire at Leicester in terms of receiving the ball in defensive areas and driving into midfield. And that lad actually has the ability to actually drop his shoulder and actually go beyond people. I saw him do it the weekend, tried to do it against Manchester United even on a couple of occasions. So he's probably the best there is around, and it makes a difference. It really does. It opens up space.
Because when him and Stones were playing together at the World Cup, they could both do it a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was useful. Declan Rice. Pat Nevin joined us, as he does every Monday, just to look back on the weekend, and he'd been watching the game, and he was really blown away by Rice. He was saying, this guy, I think he said spectacular is the word. He said he's only 20, he's reading the game the way he's reading the game. He's like, 2-3 years, this guy's going to be frightening. Did he impress you?
Yeah, he didn't do anything different to what he's been doing all season, to be honest with you. I said what he did different. He picked up a ball second half, intercepted a pass probably about 15 yards inside his own half, 20 yards, and generally what you see him doing, he'll get the ball, he'll keep it simple, he'll pop it into Noble Sawgrass, one of his wingers, keep it simple, won't get ahead of the ball, hold his position, get himself in defensive position. Very disciplined for someone so young. But what he did last night, he picked up the ball and he went whoosh. I'm talking about Van Dijk opening his legs up. He just went forward and he travelled about 40 yards with the ball at his feet, running beyond Liverpool players. He played a precise pass at the end of it to the feet of Antonio, taking the shot and didn't try to play Chicharito in. But that was another part of his game which I haven't seen.
Because, he did that for Ireland a little bit. He ran with the ball for Ireland on one occasion when he played for Ireland. And, it's almost rare in this academy type football that we see now for players not to just take a pass and take the ball, pass. He actually ran with the ball, drew a man and slipped it down the line to someone. It was like an old school thing that you'd see on your green.
But this is a
throwback.
But you are right, throw back to more box to box type midfielders. That was expected of you. That was just par for the course. We don't see it now. We see specialised positions there that hold the number 6 which he plays. But I've always looked at him and thought, I wonder can he do it? Has he got that in his makeup? Because he's so disciplined. He's been asked to stay behind the ball. He does it. You almost look at him and you think, actually, is he playing with himself a little bit?
I would say he is still, because he seems like a kind of humble enough fella. I'd say he's still very respectful of his place in the game. And I would say as he grows into it now, you might see more of what you're talking about, hopefully.
Well, he's going to become a more all-rounded player, and without a doubt, if he develops into that type of player, then he's a player who you can utilise in a number of different positions in the sixes. He's playing for West Ham in an orthodox midfield too, whatever it is, diamond. You can utilise him in different areas. He's quite athletic, good. He's got good legs, Declan. So he's a player who, undoubtedly, the bigger clubs. I don't think it's in his best interest now, but certainly potentially a couple of years down the road, if he keeps continue at the rate that he is, certainly in that area of the pitch. You look at Manchester City. You look at Chelsea. We had a small debate about Chelsea, about the merits of Jorginho on that area of the pitch, how wonderfully technically he is. But for me, he's an absolute passenger out of possession of all. The defensive side to his game just isn't good enough to accommodate as good as he is technically. Ideally for me, to play the Sarri way, you need someone of a high technical level who can play in there, but also the added bonus is somebody with a real kind of switched on defensive mindset. Now, Sarri doesn't think Kante has that, the technical ability of the level that he needs to play in there.
Yeah.
But you look at Declan Rice and you think potentially he's a player who can actually do both. He can offer Sarri and someone of that ilk, that philosophy, a player who can actually go in and play there, have a certain technical ability to play in that position, receive the ball in the half-turn, play up the pitch, play 10, 15-yard balls, different array of pass and big switches of play, whatever needs to be done in that central area of the pitch. But also someone, when you lose it, switched on immediately, can make a tackle, get tight, make interceptions, gives good screen to the centre half, cover the ground.
You're seeing him as more of a midfielder, clearly, than a centre half.
Oh yeah, well, without a doubt, yeah. At the moment, the centre half could almost be too easy for him. Yeah. Like I said, when I first saw Declan, if you had said to me, somebody with the technical ability to play in there in tight areas, I would have said, I'm not too sure about that. You can sit there, you can read danger, you can tackle, keep it simple. But first time I saw him play was the America game in Dublin. That was the first time I saw him, and I looked at him and thought, wow, in terms of his ability to get on the ball, get on the half-turn and play forward, that's the first time I'd really seen it and thought, wow, this lad's
Tell you what, Kenny,
exceptional.
England are going to have a good crack at the Euros now. Oh.
Let's not go. Look, I've parked that. It's just great to see a young player playing to that level, with that kind of confidence, regardless of the issue that you...
Wider issue, yeah. No, he's done very well. So, we're going to take a short break. Phil McNulty was on earlier. I was chatting to him about trouble for Marco Silva at Everton. Kenny's back with us tomorrow as well. We might talk a bit more about Chelsea tomorrow, actually, and we have Everton against Man City, so that's all on the way. Back in a sec.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new and improved Boyle Sports Bet Builder. Now with 44 markets to choose from on every match.
News Talk Breakfast.
The whole point of going into the Labour Court, the whole point of negotiation is to have leverage. Power gives you leverage, and going on strike is a display of power.
And if we were having this discussion 2 weeks ago, I would have said fine. I never thought there was any hope the Labour Court talks would succeed at that stage, because the boil needed to be lanced. But I think 2 days, maybe 3 days on Thursday is enough for that. We do not need 8 days of strike to lance that boil.
News Talk Breakfast with Shane Coleman and Kieran Cuddihy.
In association with AIR.
Back tomorrow from 7. on News Talk.
The new 2019 Mercedes-Benz A-Class. It's a car that's a little more like you. How? Well, for starters, you unlock it with your phone. And with voice control, you can make a call, change the temperature, find a restaurant, pause the music. The new 2019 A-Class from €27,860. It's awesome. Just like you. Contact your authorised Mercedes-Benz dealership to try it out. Subject to availability, terms and conditions apply. Price excludes dealer-related charges.
At AppliancesDelivered.ie, we sell all kinds of washing machines. But there's one model for $179.95 that comes with something very special. A 2-year warranty. And why is that special? Well, for $179.95, most retailers will only give you a 1-year warranty. But AppliancesDelivered.ie is not most retailers, so we double the warranty and give you 2 years. It won't make laundry more fun, but the price should put a smile on your face. T's and C's apply. Check it out at AppliancesDelivered.ie.
At Carphone Warehouse, when you switch, you save with the best deals across every network. Save up to €129 compared to the network stores. And get the iPhone 6S for free. Or the Huawei P20 for free. Both on a €30 a month plan. With all-you-can-eat data when you switch to 3. But only when you switch at Carphone Warehouse. Don't overpay. Switch today. Any network, any phone, any plan. Only Carphone Warehouse. T's and C's apply. Offer subject to a 24-month contract.
If you're thinking of buying a residential rental property, ICS Mortgages can provide an excellent range of flexible buy-to-let mortgages, including interest-only terms of up to 15 years. We'll also help you to refinance your existing portfolio and grow your property investments. Call 1890 427 427, visit icsmortgages.ie or contact your local mortgage broker. ICS Mortgages, the property investor's choice. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply and are subject to change. The entire amount that you have borrowed will still be outstanding at the end of the interest-only period. Dillosk DAC, trading as Dillosk and ICS Mortgages, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So interesting times on Merseyside, as we know, and to that end, we're joined by Phil McNulty, BBC chief football writer on the line. Evening, Phil.
Good evening.
So let's start with Everton. We've been talking plenty about Liverpool. They've won just 3 of their past 12 league games. Their last defeat greeted with boos from the stands. Everton 1, Wolves 3. They're not happy around Goodison.
No, they're not. And I think it's a combination of things. Poor results and the quality of the football they're seeing. They started the season quite well. And there was optimism that Marco Silva would bring a more positive attacking style of play to the club after what they regarded as the stale and unpalatable stuff that was served up under Sam Allardyce. But the problem is, as has happened to Marco Silva both at Hull and also at Watford, a good start is followed by decline that he then struggles to turn around. And at the moment, that decline has arrived and he's struggling to turn it around. And as you say, the fans are restless, not helped by what they're seeing across the road, obviously at Liverpool, this entertaining football Klopp's team are providing, but Silva can't concern himself with that. But certainly at the moment the fans are very unhappy with what they're seeing. What's been the nature of the decline? What are the differences in the team now as opposed to the start of the season, Phil? Well, I think at the start of the season Richarlison was playing well. Not that he's dropped off completely, but he's not playing quite as well. And at the start of the season they were playing this high tempo attacking football and they were scoring goals, but in the background all the time, and it's a problem that has haunted them all season, they still had a habit of conceding silly goals. Again, that's a narrative of the whole of Silva's career. Conceding goals from set pieces has become a real problem for them. 3 of them at Millwall in the Cup, another one on Saturday. And some people are suggesting they've not quite recovered from what happened to them in the derby game at Anfield when they stood toe-to-toe with Liverpool for 96 minutes, fully deserved at least a point, and then Jordan Pickford had that meltdown which gave Divock Origi that goal in the 96th minute, and it almost seems to have dealt them this blow to their confidence that they've not recovered from. But you can't really pin it on that. I mean, it shows a fairly weak squad if one defeat, albeit how painful, has the impact it has on them. And at the moment they're a team having looked a team with identity at the start of the season, pace, width, pressing game. At the moment, they don't appear to have any sort of identity at all. You're not quite sure what sort of team they are. Are they a passing team? No. Are they a pressing team? No. Do they put other teams under pressure physically? No. And it's a litany of problems that Silva has to solve, and unfortunately for him, he has to solve them in the next 24 hours before Manchester City come to town.
OK, that is quite the problem then. What kind of money have they spent? What did Silva have available to him over the summer? Remind us.
Well, he's working now under a different structure than before. Everton appointed a director of football in Marcel Brands, very highly rated, worked very well at PSV and AZ Alkmaar, where he had Louis van Gaal with him. And everyone you talk to around the club says what an impressive figure he is. But it's very, very early days for him. He said at the start of the season, if Farhad Moshiri, the owner, expects me to turn this around in 1 year, he's got the wrong man. He works long term. But there was still plenty of spending in the summer. They spent 40 million plus on Richarlison. They spent 27, 28 on Yerry Mina. Other players came in on loan, the likes of Andre Gomez. Bernard came on a free transfer, but with big wages. And Luka Dean also came from Barcelona for about £18 million. So money was spent. But I think now, which sort of held them back a little bit in the transfer window, they want that wage bill thinned out. Everton have got a massive wage bill stretching back to when Koeman and Walsh had their first splurge a couple of years ago. And that wage bill needs to be thinned out. I do think there will be money to spend in the summer. Farhad Moshiri has proved he's willing to back the manager with funds, but I think at the moment, certainly in January, they're holding it back, saying, look, we need to get money in first now before we start spending again. And that's perfectly reasonable because I spent a lot of money.
There was a fans event or an AGM of some kind recently where Moshiri made some noises whereby if I was Marco Silva, I'd be concerned. The general sense was, we've spent all this money, I was expecting to have a great time, and I'm not having one.
I think he's certainly good with a microphone in his hand. When Mr. Moshiri at these meetings, he always says something worthwhile. And I think, to be fair, in that there were two sides to the point he was making. He said he'd taken, his words, a big bet on Marco. He was his man. He was behind him. But I think they were 11th at the time, and he said for the money that was spent, that's not good enough. There were two sides to the argument. It wasn't like a laying the law down, finger wagging, get it sorted Marco speech. It was a statement of fact. At that moment, 11th wasn't good enough, and the league performance this season hasn't been good enough. But there was this other side to it, that he had taken this big bet on Marco. He wanted him last season when Ronald Koeman was sacked and couldn't get him out of Watford. So for the moment, he's behind him. It was just a statement of fact that the league position wasn't good enough. But obviously, the subplot to that is, what does he do if the league position continues to be not good enough?
So, first things first, Silva needs to turn this around pretty quickly. There's no sense he's lost the dressing room or that it's a difficult dressing room, is there?
Not at all, no. I just think at the moment they look completely uninspired and lacking in motivation, and that's his job, of course. But lots of these players have looked uninspired and lacking in motivation under quite a few managers recently, going back to Ronald Koeman, then when David Unsworth had his spill in charge, and then Sam Allardyce. And also the fans are asking questions of the players. Where's their motivation? I think Marco Silva came out with a comment the other day that motivation is an obligation. He shouldn't necessarily have to motivate them, even though that is his job. And people are asking questions of the players as well. Gylfi Sigurdsson has scored 10 goals this season, but he doesn't do much else. They're asking, how does this £50 million player, does he influence the games enough? And while he is very talented, he has not done that. Jordan Pickford has had a mixed season since coming back from the World Cup. Yerry Mina, the big signing, has been in and out of the team through injury. So really, he does need to find a way to flick the switch with these players. But at the moment, as I say, they look so flat and uninspired and lacking in motivation. It's hard to see how he does it, but he needs to do it because it's his job in the end that will be on the line if he doesn't do that. Yeah, and I would presume there's not an Everton supporter at this stage who doesn't have a strong opinion on zonal marking. That is a very, very big thing. I think after various chats at that meeting you were talking about, I think one of the first questions when hands went up from the floor was, what are you doing about zonal marking and can't we get rid of it? Normally it's, why aren't we signing so-and-so? Why have we sold him? One of the first questions he got was about zonal marking. And of course he says, well, lots of teams do it and I've done it. But the problem is, Everton don't do it very successfully. It seems to be completely haphazard. No one's leading in the defence, and they are conceding goals left, right and centre, literally, by using zonal marking. It's been happening even when they were playing well, and now it's become a real issue with the fans. It was an issue early on because it was one of the things they hit on right away, saying, yes, this looks good, but this zonal marking thing, it's not working. The professionals say it's not easy to do, but it's very, you can accomplish it. But the problem is, if you keep leaking goals, then there's something wrong with it. It's okay saying it works and you're not conceding any goals. Marco Silva is absolutely welded onto this zonal marking, and Everton have conceded daft goals from set pieces since virtually the first day of the season. All to the point that against Millwall there was a sense of inevitability
about the concession.
Well, the face on Neil Harris when they got a free kick in the last minute, I've seen managers pull that face when they've been awarded a penalty. It almost, as you say, there was this sense of inevitability that that ball, and all the goals they conceded against Millwall were complete and utter chaos. They weren't undone by some brilliant set piece. They were chaotic. And that's sort of the big problem. They're just not defending them.
And Phil, what's the general sense on the general health of the club under Moshiri? Are they looking at a new stadium? That's been an issue that's been talked about for years. And generally, he has spent thus far and seems to be willing to spend again. Like, once they get through this little blip, are things not so bad?
Well, I think people sometimes look at the way Chelsea and Manchester City did it. They had a sort of a phase one when they went out there and spent a lot of money, but then they changed managers. Ranieri when he was at Chelsea, Mark Hughes at City. Moshiri's gone through that bit where he's changed 2 or 3 managers. I do think the fans think his intentions are good. He's certainly not kept his hand in his pocket. He's funded players. They are moving forward with the stadium, albeit slowly, but it is a massive project on the dockside there at the Mersey. It's not going to be easy to accomplish, but there is a sense now that this will actually happen, whereas before, when various ideas were floated, people were saying, well, I really hope to live to see that because I'll be about 500 when the gates open. I think there is a sense now that the club his intentions are good, but his decision-making has been bad. He needs to improve his decision-making. I think he needs now, having appointed Marcel Brands, put him on the board of directors, which was announced recently, and effectively announced that he is in charge of overall football strategy. Moshiri now needs to sit back, let Brands dictate that strategy, and maybe listen to the wise words of Bill Kenwright, who's been on the board and been chairman and been owner in the past, and just see what he thinks about the situation. But I think the general feeling is that despite the disappointment on the field, and it's big disappointment, the owner is ambitious and does want to get things done. The problem is that at the moment, he seems to want the quick win of, Ronald Koeman, get him in, the fans want him. They don't like him now, get him out. Roberto Martinez, the fans don't like him, get him out. We're desperate, Sam Allardyce, bring him in. Now the fans don't like him, get him out. And they need stability, and I do think that's what Marcel Brands is preaching behind the scenes. Let's have a period of stability now and then see where we go. The problem with preaching stability is if the team is losing every week, that doesn't make the right noise with the fans and not with owners who've pumped millions of pounds into the club, of course.
As you mentioned earlier, meanwhile, things are... Well, I was going to say they're very good on the other side of Merseyside, and they are, but we may be in the midst of a bit of a wobble. What are you making of the title race at the moment?
Well, I think Liverpool will be slightly disappointed in that they were looking at possibly a 7-point lead last Tuesday night when they faced Leicester City. And of course now it's Manchester City could go top if they win at Everton tomorrow, even though they'll have a game in hand. I don't think it's necessarily a question of nerves at Liverpool. I think lots of people are saying that. Obviously there's going to be pressure when you're going for the title, but I think the problem they have is that their squad is being a little bit exposed. Lots of questions now being asked about why Jurgen Klopp allowed Nathaniel Klein to go to Bournemouth when really he only had Trent Alexander-Arnold as his right back, and of course as luck would have it, Trent Alexander-Arnold gets injured. James Milner has been playing at right back, and strangely, one of those quirks of football, someone who looked very comfortable at left back doesn't look very comfortable at right back. Central defence has been eaten into. They've had injuries to Joe Gomez. Dejan Lovren's fitness is never reliable. He's in and out of the team quite a lot. So Joel Matip is in there alongside Van Dijk, so that looks a little bit weak as well. Also in midfield, they've had injuries. Last night they were missing Henderson, Wijnaldum. When you look at squads like Manchester City, and Jamie Carragher even raised Manchester United as having not a better team than Liverpool, but a better all-round squad than Liverpool. And I think that is the problem at the moment. Liverpool's squad is being eaten into, and they need those injured players back quite quickly, because I think that is where the problem has arisen. Still very, very heavily reliant on the likes of Mane, Firmino and Salah up front. By all means, they're delivering, but they need more from elsewhere, and they're not getting that at the moment. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been a big miss. They're still hoping to have him back before the end of the season. So I wouldn't put it down to nerves. I would put it more down to the squad being tested, and at the moment being found a little bit wanting. But certainly that buoyancy that was abroad after Manchester City lost at Newcastle has been reduced a little bit by the draw at home to Leicester City when they didn't play very well, and of course last night when they drew at West Ham when they didn't play very well, and even the recent 4-3 home win against Crystal Palace. They lived on their nerves for the whole of that game. They were behind and then they were level, but they pulled it out of the bag in the end. All teams go through these little phases, and Jurgen Klopp will hope this is Liverpool's, and soon he can have these injured players back who can make the difference for him.
Yeah, making do with kind of unorthodox right backs, one way or another, is far from ideal when you're in the midst of a title race. Has Klopp given a good answer as to why they let Klein go, or do you suspect he will hold his hands up and say it's proved to be a mistake the way things have transpired?
I think he made a very human decision at the time, and it's backfired on him. I think he felt that Klein came to him, he wasn't playing, he wanted to play, and Klopp understood his position and let him go thinking he could cover it. Of course, as fate would have it, who immediately gets injured in the warm-up at Brighton and is out for a month, but Trent Alexander-Arnold. I suppose you could throw that back in Klopp's face and say, well, you should have been more ruthless, and probably he should have been. He should have said to Nathaniel Klein, yes, you can go, but you're going at the end of the season. He made that decision to let him go to Bournemouth, and at the moment it looks a bad one, because Trent Alexander-Arnold is out. Should be back quite soon, but they haven't looked the same without him. And funnily enough, Klein played when they beat Manchester United 3-1 in Jose Mourinho's final game, and he played very well. He's a proven right back, he's an England international, and he would have just fitted the bill perfectly, but he's not there. And now, because there's been this bit of a blip, people are saying, should you have done it? And it does look like a mistake at the moment. But I think Jurgen Klopp, whether you think it's right or wrong, made a human decision. Klein wanted to play football. Klopp said, OK, we don't really need you, you can go to Bournemouth. And as I say, as luck would have it, his first choice right back almost immediately goes down injured.
You're around the area, you're probably seeing Klopp on a relatively regular basis. He's been through all this before with Dortmund. Obviously the sense of event and hunger surrounding Liverpool potentially winning a league title after so long is hard to compare to anything, really. You can only imagine the atmosphere there. How's he handling all that? Any changes in his demeanour? He looks from this vantage point to be handling it all very well.
I think he's fine. I think he's trying to calm everything down. But you're right, there is that amazing sense of anticipation that the long wait might be over. And in some cases, it plays against them. The fans were very, very anxious against Leicester City when there was that opportunity to go 7 points clear. And it transmitted itself to the team. There's no doubt about that. Virgil van Dijk spoke about it afterwards, not criticising the fans, but just saying they just needed to be a bit more patient, be calm. It is only, well, it was January then, it's February now. But the sense of excitement, expectation, and then possibly disappointment when it doesn't go as they want, as was the case against Leicester City, that could have a little bit of an effect, and maybe that's something they need to keep an eye on. It's almost, the expectation is so great, it almost hurts these fans, and when suddenly Leicester City equalise and they think, oh, we're not going to have that 7 point lead, they then get jumpy and worried. The fact of the matter is they're still 3 points clear, and even if Manchester City overtake them tomorrow, Liverpool will still have a game in hand. This was never, despite what people said, going to be settled in January, February or March. And of course Spurs will still think they have a say in it as well, but I think it will go fairly deep into April and May before this is settled, and as you say, the expectation must not start to work against Liverpool. The fans must try and keep a lid on that somehow and not let themselves get too anxious and then transmit that to the team, which I think was the case against Leicester.
And all of that with the unknowables of what injuries are going to affect things, which will happen, and Champions League commitments. I mean, who knows where both sides go, City and Liverpool go in the Champions League.
Well, they've both drawn German opposition. City, I think, would really fancy their chances against Schalke. I think that was the draw. If you just said to Pep Guardiola, which of these would you like? Certainly they would have been in there. Liverpool have got a tough draw against Bayern Munich, who know the way around the Champions League so well. But I think if Liverpool are at their best, they can beat Bayern Munich. But that is a tough game. And as you say, then you go further into the season, commitments even further into squads. And you just looked at the strength of City's bench the other day when I was at the Etihad, and there's some strength on that bench, which at the moment Liverpool are struggling to compare with. And that, in the end, may well be the big difference. But make no mistake, Liverpool are in the best position of all because they're at the front. That's where they all want to be. I think Manchester City would accept that. But I think the last few days have been good for Manchester City because having looked like they'd really dropped they'd suffered a real setback at Newcastle, it doesn't quite look so bad now because Liverpool have slipped in their last two league games. Yeah, it's true. It's fantastic to have a title race like this. It's been great all season and it's twisted and turned a few times, so it's been really compelling. The other really compelling story this season is over at Old Trafford. So I saw Gary Neville make the point that he thought Solskjær had maybe a 25% chance of getting the job when he first took it. He has now upgraded that to about 60%. I thought you were going to say 30 then. It's a hell of a month coming up for him, but give us what you're hearing on Solskjær at Old Trafford and what he's done there. Well, I think everybody thinks he's pretty much done the perfect audition so far. He's brought a more relaxed mood to the place after the cloud that was cast over it by Jose Mourinho's demeanour. He's got the team winning, 9 wins and 1 draw in 10 games. And he's brought the fun and the freedom and the enjoyment back to the club and the playing style. And they're now playing as Manchester United fans would like to see their team playing. And he's got those big players playing. Pogba looks like the sort of person and player they paid £89 million for finally. And of course, his big success, and someone who you would almost regard as symbolic of what he's done there, is Marcus Rashford, who is in absolutely blistering form at the moment, the winner again at Leicester City. And you're right, it's a big month coming up for him. He's already making a great impression, I would imagine, on all the people behind the scenes in the boardroom at Old Trafford. If he can get them through to the next round of the Champions League by overcoming PSG in the last 16, and also there's a home game against Liverpool, if he can win that, then his case is really building. And funnily enough, now you look at PSG, when the draw was made and Mourinho was there and United were flat as a fluke, as it were, and struggling to win any sorts of games convincingly, everyone looked at that draw and thought, they're not going to do that. Now I think people are looking at it completely differently. Manchester United are in form, they're confident, and of course PSG have lost Neymar. So I think the emphasis has shifted there, and I think Manchester United will really fancy their chances over 2-leg against PSG. If they can do that, if Ole Gunnar Solskjær can get them through that, then he will really strengthen his case. I mean, I'm not quite sure it's the done deal. Some people are saying whether in the end Ed Woodward will go for the big hitter in the shape of Pochettino, and whether Pochettino will then want it, or whether Real Madrid will want Pochettino. But certainly Ole Gunnar Solskjær has done better than anyone could have expected, and has done everything everyone has asked of him, and even more. It's been an outstanding piece of management from him, because he's shown himself to be good tactically as well. He was tactics at Spurs and at Arsenal in the FA Cup. His tactics were very good when he went for the pace of Martial and Rashford at Spurs rather than the physicality of Lukaku. Then in the FA Cup at Arsenal, he had that little tactic where he put Lukaku out on the right flank, and he ended up really working well, played a part in the goals. So tactically he's looked switched on as well, so really couldn't have done any better. Time will tell whether he will get the job, but he can certainly strengthen his case in the next few weeks.
Phil McNulty, BBC Chief Football Writer. Thanks so much, Phil.
No problem at all.
Off the ball
On News Talk.
Hey Skoda, find me the nearest vegan restaurant.
You will arrive at your destination, Cut the Cheese Cafe, in 71 kilometres.
Oh, you love this place, Bernadette. It's the best vegan cheese toastie in Ireland.
Right.
Worth the drive. They bake the bread from scratch. It's amazing what they can do with cauliflower these days.
The Skoda Kodiaq with Skoda Connect, making it easy to find the next place to try. Skoda, made for a new Ireland.
With Virgin Media, you can build up the entertainment and tear down the price. First up, movies. Sport. Gaming. You win. And to top it off, switch today and get superfast broadband and TV for just €49 a month for an awesome 12 months. The sale that stacks up. Now on. See virginmedia.ie.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. 12-month contract. Offer ends 27th of February 2019.
So what you're saying is, all the kids are getting medals?
Yep. No losers, apparently.
But it's a football match. There's literally 2 teams.
I know. And all 22 of them are getting man of the match. Even the subs.
Okay. What life lessons are we learning here then today?
Awards don't always mean that much these days. But after working hard to make insurance as simple as possible for you, 123.ie won the Customer Experience Impact in Insurance Award. Switch today at 123.ie. Simple is smarter. Terms and conditions apply. 123 Money Limited, trading as 123.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Hi, I'm Yvonne O'Mara, SuperValue store owner. Fill your trolley with the SuperValue range, with over 3,000 products and hundreds for €1 or less, like SuperValue Medium Curry Sauce, only €1, and SuperValue Express Basmati Rice, only 79 cents. With the SuperValue range, you can shop as you please and save as much as you like. All things considered, it's SuperValue.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So that's us pretty much done for the evening. Kenny Cunningham's back with us tomorrow. We'll be keeping a very close eye on Everton against Manchester City. Big announcement on OTB AM tomorrow, rugby related, so tune in for that. All our social channels OTBAM 7:45 every weekday morning, and then we actually have an announcement ourselves on the show tomorrow evening here on the radio, GA related. So it's all going on here at Off the Ball Towers tomorrow. Tune in 7:45 OTBAM, and then the evening show 7 o'clock. Tom Dunn on the way. We'll also have Wednesday night rugby tomorrow, a few other bits and pieces as well. So it's a busy week as we build up to Murrayfield on Saturday. Tom Dunn on the way next, and we'll talk to you later. Good luck.